I'll do that now. So yes, just to get people up to speed here, this is it's called Water for Life, and it's a project that Herbert is working with. And Herbert is he's sometimes called the GANS master because he's created many, if not most, of the GANSes that we see in the pictures at Linz in Austria. And so he's created this water filtration system that he's marketing around the world, especially in Africa and places that have dirty water, not necessarily chemically dirty, but have bacteria, viruses, and things that can be actually filtered out. Okay, so let's have a look at it here. Okay, Water for Life.
Having been in Africa, experience situations in the village where people have no water or dirty water, was my heart's wish and desire to develop or find ways to make life better for those people. And so I came to hear about a way to do it, and with a friend together we developed this kind of filter system, which is a standalone unit where you don't need electricity to filter water. It filters water bacteria free, which you don't need to boil after filtering. This was important. The people don't need to boil the water before drinking. And it has a big capacity of filtering. It's not just a home, one family unit, but for a big community, for big schools, a big community, up to 5,000 people, even 10,000 people, when just counting the drinking water. And it's so simple, it's so easy, it's so quick, and you can use almost any water. Almost any water. Very good is rainwater. Collect the rainwaters from the roof and use this as the raw water, or the river water, or if you have deep well, use that. And through filtering it, you can be sure, as you have seen, drinking this, I would not dare to drink it directly, but after filtering, you can easily drink and be safe. Yeah. So it's our gift, it's my gift to your nation, to your people, to your children, to enjoy good, healthy life. Thank you. Show you now the raw water, which is like this, and we filter it. Open it. A lot of dirt comes out here. No, stop. So this is before filtering and after filtering. Prost. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's the Water for Life with Herbert Blotter.
Right, and he was saying, Rick, that the children, 4 out of 10, don't make it to their 5th birthday in Uganda, which is, I mean, I'm sure it's not all from cholera bacteria, but it's quite a high child loss rate, I would say. And despite that fact, the population has grown. I think he said from, what was it, 22 million in 2010 to 32 million. And right now, don't remember the numbers exactly,
I
but the
think it was
population,
50 million, wasn't it?
okay, you're probably right. I don't remember the exact numbers, but there was almost a doubling of population, or at least a third growth in the country. And
Mhm.
Uganda's where they had, well, not yesterday, but years ago, they had discovered the largest physical gold mine ever in the world, I think. And they've taken hundreds of millions of dollars of gold out of it. So, and they want to keep it internally, but this is like a few $1 trillion claim, apparently, that the Chinese have put in hundreds of millions of dollars for extraction process. So the country has discovered some wealth, but as we know, wealth is not in the pocket. It's in the knowledge of the universe, and this is what Herbert has delivered. And he said he wants to do it on his own. I asked him if there's so many international aid agencies, but of course, that could have been a way to divert this whole system that it would really never make it in. And you wouldn't think that, but so he says he's planning on doing it on his own, and they have a special donor. I think he said, how many of these units, Rick? 13, 14 were brought down to Uganda,
Mhm.
and hopefully doing the manufacturing right within the country, because he said the shipping and the value added tax and the rest of the paperwork was just a real bear. Let's say, not quite, I mean, figuratively, like the bear you had under your porch, Rick.
And we're not referring to Russia in this case.
Right, either. Right. He's not poking the bear. But he said the paperwork and the customs and getting it all delivered and everything was a real work of art in itself, apparently. I know John had said that too, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. But sometimes with these value added taxes, that's what happens.
Yeah, I
You,
think he's working with one of the agencies in that regard, and it's helping with getting through customs and shipping.
but right,
Yeah.
imagine not being able to find any water that isn't contaminated with such a huge
Mhm.
growth of population and nowhere to throw their fecal matter. This is what he was saying, that most of the water sources, even wells, are known to be contaminated with the bacteria. I guess you must develop some sort of immunity to it over time, but not a good situation.
Yeah, it's not just the fecal matter. Well, in terms of, he was mentioning we have these storage tanks, for example,
Oh,
and
yes.
they don't get cleaned out. So the water they're collecting is often rainwater. And if they're collecting rainwater and it's sitting in a tank for months at a time without getting cleaned out, especially in hot weather, then you get mold, bacteria, and algae all build up, and it can stick to the inside walls of the container and be quite hard to get rid of without doing chlorine shocking and this kind of thing. And so his invention will filter bacteria. It's got a super fine mesh filter that's able to filter out viruses and bacteria. Um, so that's why it's good in particular for dirty water or surface water, which is where most of the water in Africa apparently has been surface water in the past, until the UN got the bright idea some years ago to start digging deep wells. And they started a deep well project and dug, I think, tens of thousands of deep wells. Not super deep, but deep enough that you had to pump the water up to the surface and so on. So they had all these wells and pumps and so on. Then they determined that that water that was in the lower levels, not the surface water, but the water they were accessing with these deep wells, was full of arsenic. So all the wells they had so carefully made and delivered to these people were poisoning them. So then they had to do something about that, and it was a whole kerfuffle about it. I know that was several years ago, probably between 5 and 10 years ago, that I heard about that. And that seems like a real shame. So this could, with what Herbert's doing, it could be a way to divert that process and actually use the surface water, which is generally not too bad until it sits around for months at a time and becomes contaminated. So if you can somehow run that water through, even though it's, dirty water, what we consider to be dirty water, it could, as he demonstrated by drinking it, could work really well in that circumstance. He also mentioned it's not the best unit perhaps for chemically contaminated water.